Rumor has it, there's a lot of bad actors at work in the world today. Not the Hollywood type of bad actors, but real bad actors. Certain types of people who are at the top of society and are willing to do whatever it takes to stay in control. Do you know what their number one threat is? Kaden Behrens. On the finale of his episode, Kaden tackles all the big dogs that want to keep us down. That would be you, BlackRock and Vanguard. Kaden likes Monopoly, but he's coming for you. He also addresses the blatant bias in media and how journalism has all but disappeared. What about schools using indoctrination in place of education? We're supposed to teach kids how to think, not what to think. And if that wasn't enough, Bubba and Kaden discussed Jeffrey Epstein, his involvement in child sex trafficking, and the troubling details surrounding his alleged suicide. Wait, what? No video footage? Just like the bag of booger sugar that was found in the White House? Come on, man. You wonder why people don't trust the government anymore. To wrap it all up, the guys discussed the film, The Sound of Freedom, and why certain media outlets had a problem with it. Rolling Stone magazine. Here's your host, Bubba Seaman.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back. This is it, the one you've all been waiting for, part 3 with Kaden Behrens. The youth of America going to get deep in here today about bias in media, indoctrination versus education in our schools, the Epstein suicide, and the Sound of Freedom pushback. Man, this is going to be good. But before we get into your topics, Kaden, I want your perspective, and you don't got to go super deep or long on this, but I want to get what your thoughts are right now. Being a college-age kid who in the next couple of years you're going to be done. Are you done after senior year? Or are you going to go to there's not like another 2 years for business and stuff like that, is there?
No, I'm not going to master or anything
okay,
like
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
I'll be done in 2 years.
Okay, so I want to know kind of, you're staring at that stuff coming up in the next couple of years. You're probably thinking about adult life after college, and I want to know kind of how do you feel about the current state of the job market, the housing market, getting married, starting a family, and just culture, all those things. Have you thought about those things, or where are you kind of at on that?
Yeah, from what I've heard, the job market isn't necessarily ideal, but I feel like I've picked relevant majors, and I plan on getting into things that have a demand for them. I've been pretty interested in finance and insurance and stuff like that, and I'm also majoring in accounting too. And so accounting and insurance, from what I've heard,
goes good together.
Yeah, from what I've heard, it sounds like most of the people in those fields are on their way out, and there's not as much new people coming into those. So there should be vacancies for that and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I got an internship. Did a paid internship at State Farm, Tim Reed State Farm in Independence.
Oh yeah.
This last summer. I really liked that. So I'm not necessarily super worried about getting a job. Maybe more worried about getting a job that pays decent.
Yeah.
Because the cost of everything's going up, but wages really aren't keeping up with how fast that's getting outpaced, and that kind of leads into the housing market. Just everything's been so from what I can tell, I really don't know that much because I'm not in that, but it seems like everything's kind of overpriced, pretty expensive.
Be glad you're not buying a house right now.
Seriously.
And that's what I tell anybody, any kids right now that are in college, it's okay. Go ahead and rent. Do not buy right now. It's the rates are way too high. Maybe by the time you're out of college or a couple years after that, when they start coming back down, then you buy. Don't feel like you got to rush into it right now because the rates are just too high.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, we're not necessarily living in the days of that our grandparents where they could get a house just working a couple years worth of their salary.
Yeah, just the guy working. You could have a car, you could have a few kids, you could have a nice little bit of property.
Yep.
Yeah, then boy, that's good luck trying to do that today. You got a different life if that's all you're going to do is one, the husband at a factory. He can't provide all of that, I don't think. But
no, yeah, the wife didn't even have to work. I mean, that's one thing that's I hope I can get to the point where my future wife doesn't have to work. I feel like if she can just raise the kids and stuff like that, we'll probably homeschool if that's an option, honestly. So yeah, it's just different times. That's not really that feasible anymore.
And you don't got to have it all figured out right now, but I just kind of wondered, have you, being halfway through college, had you thought about any of that, or is it just school, sports, work, repeat?
Yeah, as far as like looking for jobs and stuff, I'm still trying to like 100% like pin down exactly what I want to do, and then I guess I'll kind of worry about. I'm still making sure I'm getting like internships and stuff like that, which is huge when you're in college. Yeah, and then housing, that's a whole different beast. But as far as like getting married and stuff, I mean, I don't really plan on breaking up with my girlfriend. We've been together for 3 years already, so if everything goes perfect, we'll both graduate college. She's going to college in Spain, by the way. Tuition over there is like $1,000 versus like 20,000. So yeah,
what?
Yeah, it's not really feasible for her to come over here and like.
Can you be a foreign exchange student over there?
Yeah. Have to work on my Spanish a little bit better. I don't think I'm necessarily at that kind of level. But so the plan with that is we'll graduate and then she'll move here, and then the goal is to get married like basically as soon as we can. Most likely what's going to happen is we'll get married like legally, like just like at like a courthouse or something like that. Yeah, just so that she can work on her citizenship like pretty much right away, and then we'll save up till we can actually like afford like a wedding and stuff. Okay. And like wait till we can actually like celebrate that like in like good fashion instead of just something like that.
Man with a plan. I like it. Sarah's grandpa used to always tell me though, not her grandpa, her grandma used to always tell her grandpa, because he was kind of like us. He liked structure. He liked, and it's like, no, you got to be flexible though. It's okay to have your ducks in a row, but you got to learn to be flexible. But if you're talking about your future wedding and stuff, I got to call your mom out. We got to give Julie a shout out. She texted me a while back. Bridget was kind of on me about this. She was, as her and Ryan started getting more serious about, a wedding and stuff, I could just tell, because the question had come up before about how I felt about doing a wedding and stuff. And I told him, I was like, I think that's the pastor's job. And I know a lot of good people that went ahead and got their certification online somehow. But to me, it's like, if you don't feel called to be a pastor and do everything that a pastor's called to do, how do you feel called to do that one thing? Just do a marriage ceremony. So to me, I won't do it. It doesn't seem right to me. And Bridget said, but even though like somebody like you and doing it for us, and you don't see, I was like, yeah, maybe that doesn't seem wrong to me, but it seems wrong to just put myself in that position. That's a pastor's job, and I clearly am not called to be a pastor. So Julie had texted me one day. I don't know if this was God's way of like winking at me, saying like, yeah, maybe you're not called to do weddings, but there's something else you can do. And your mom texted me and she said, I can't remember when she texted me, if it was like after I preached or something. Sometimes she'll text me with a question every once in a while, or she'll text me a question you asked her or something like that. Maybe it was something like that. But I thought it was after I preached or something. And she said, or no, maybe it was after she heard Russ Nesbitt talk one time. She said, I just told Kurt that there's only 2 people allowed to do my funeral, you and Russ Nesbitt. And I was like, Julie, just, statistically showing, I hope I'm going to be around a little bit longer than Russ Nesbitt. So you're telling me I'm going to do your funeral, and that seems kind of like I don't want to do one anytime soon. So let's just leave this conversation where it's at. But you talking about your wedding just kind of made me think about that a little bit. So
yeah, geez, Mom, how morbid.
Yes, Julie, I will do your funeral if I'm still around. But yeah, that's church family. That's how church family talks to each other. You see what I mean? Like, that was the difference. You talk about growing up in a small town. Well, big church and small, it's probably a lot harder to get to know people that well in a big church. Big churches can be great. I know they can be, and they can do a lot of things and have a lot of programs and really preach the word. But man, like over the last 20 years, we have gotten close with the people that have come and gone or come and stayed in our church. And yeah, you can just say things like that. And because it's church family. And some people that's like foreign to them. They just don't get it. Church is something you drive to, you back into your space, you make sure the pastor only preaches 20 minutes and you're out of there by this time, and then you go, and it's like, yeah, I'm all for 30-minute sermons. I just can't focus too much longer than that. But church is supposed to be so much more than that. You're supposed to be building relationships, worshiping God together, serving God together, and assembling with other believers. There's a whole lot in the Bible about how a church family is supposed to work together. But we're getting way off topic. We gotta get to your stuff. It's like what, 9:15 at night? You could probably go for hours. I can't. But
yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, we're gonna start with number one. What is up with the bias in media and how it's influencing the flow of information? What do you think?
Yeah. What is up with that? So from what from what I've gathered, there's basically like the big six, like media companies that virtually control all of it, just about everything besides local news. Comcast, Disney, Sony, Fox, Paramount, AT&T.
Yep.
It's weird because all those companies themselves are owned by like, have you heard anything about like BlackRock and Vanguard?
BlackRock and
Vanguard. They essentially own like every large company like in the entire United States.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all owned by each other, and then like BlackRock and Vanguard are owned by like each other too, and all the other like State Street, like giant like
there's
stock
the third
indexes.
one. Yeah, State Street.
Yeah. So you look at like, oh, it's like Fox versus CNN, like Republican versus Democrat. I mean, they're all owned by the same people. Like, is it really like really like what's the goal here? Yeah. So I feel like ever since like the Red Scare, how like our media was taken over like to be like a propaganda machine against communism. Mm-hmm. I feel like they never really relented that control since then.
Okay.
And I feel like now it's media is more of just like kind of like a propaganda machine. It's a lot more of like a business more than like an actual like public service.
Journalism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like they're just trying to sell like what's hot at the time. That's why the news cycle moves so fast. Like one big crazy thing can happen, and that's interesting for a day, but then it's like the new best
on to the next thing.
Yeah. Like right after that. So there's just some times that it just makes you scratch your head, like, oh, there's like really big things going on and like it's getting no coverage, but like something stupid is like things like the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, which we'll talk about a little bit later too. But like while that's going on, like that got like relatively no like media coverage.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like
what is up with that, man?
Yeah. Like that's huge. We're talking about pedophiles in our own government, like international governments, like CEOs of corporations, like
that should have dominated the news cycle for a while,
like raping kids and stuff. But like, no, we don't hear anything about that. But we'll hear about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. That whole thing was like televised. She pooped on his bed.
Yeah, 24 hours a day coverage.
Like seriously, like every single inch of that whole thing was covered. And like, what even is like so pointless? And
right.
Right. It really makes no sense to me. All the headlines are biased. They like to cut parts out of stories, like leave out like important details and stuff like that. It's all like pretty one-sided reporting, and that happens on both sides. I'm not saying it's just coming from CNN. Yeah. Fox does it just as much.
Yeah. Me and my last guest, we kind of talked about that a little bit about hearing the other side. Don't just hear, if you're getting all your news and information from one source, it's going to be biased. It's going to be kind of fitting their narrative, and they're not going to cover certain things. And we're kind of getting to that point just a little bit about, you got to look to the other side. There's nothing wrong with looking to another place for information. At least get the other side of the story. There's always more than one side to a story. I had a guy recently told me, he goes, yeah, no, there's actually three sides to the story. There's this person's side, the other person's side, and then there's the stuff that goes around town, the rumor mill and all that. And he goes, the truth is in there somewhere and mixed to those three. But if you're only getting one, you're definitely not clued in. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we did talk about the CJ Stroud thing a little bit earlier too, like cutting off how like he gave all his thanks to God right away, like clip that out, other things like that. I know one example I saw, like when Joe Rogan was talking about like how he was going on like that. One stuff that said was like horse medicine. Ivermectin, yeah. Like I saw it on one of his podcasts. They like edited the video and made him like look like green and like he was about to die. Like they put like a color filter on and like changed it. It's just so like even just small like little details like that.
Yeah, and even the words are important when you read not to scare anybody off, but when you read, communism and Marxism and stuff, language is so important. Like, they instantly stopped. I mean, they might reference the drug ivermectin, but they kept calling it horse dewormer on everything. And it just tried to make him look like a fool and everything. And like you said, the amount of coverage, you do know that, like, I'm assuming it's the CDC. I'd have to check and make sure. But, like, that's on the list of, like, as of now, they've come out in retrospect and said this is like a top 5 treatment for COVID-19 is ivermectin. How come that didn't dominate the news cycle? How come there weren't public apologies issued? You know what I mean? I'm on your side. I definitely see the bias big time. So what else you got?
Yeah, I definitely going back to like the CNN versus like Fox, kind of like the two like big ones. I feel like it's kind of just like a distraction. I really think like if these places are really owned by the same people, like what are they like? What's really the goal? I think it's division of Americans. I think that's another reason why I don't really like the 2-party system. It makes two sides, this side versus this side. Everyone here has to think this because they're Republican. Everyone has to think this because they're Democrat. And they kind of just expect you to fall through like the Plinko machine and land in your side or whatever.
Whatever's closest to your beliefs, you got to go with them.
Yeah. And really, I feel like nowadays, like as a people, we're more divided than ever. Like you look at it, like our last few elections, it's been right down like the last state. Like there's clear cut like winner or anything. They're like recount ballots and stuff like that. It was like that with the Trump Hillary. It was like that with Biden Trump.
Yeah.
And that's when you start getting stuff where it's like, oh, the election was stolen, and then now the Republicans are mad and they feel like they've been cheated, and it's just driving a wedge between Americans. Everything's become so polarized. And I really think that's the goal. It's to distract us from like what's really going on, and people divided, can't like rise up and like fight against like injustices and stuff that's happening in our country. Like,
well, yeah, they say, well, I can't remember who said it, but they said, a nation that crumbles from within like doesn't rebuild. If you're attacked from the outside, you can rebuild. Nations, kingdoms, countries have done that. But if you implode, basically, if you crumble from within, you're done. And there are people that hate the West, that hate Western civilization, that hate what we stand for and things like that. So we could get into the World Economic Forum and things like that people are saying, and it's a lot of people don't pay attention, they don't want to, and you just be informed, just look, just see what's going on, just in case, just don't be surprised by some of this stuff. Pay attention. It's your duty as a citizen. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. Yeah. What else you got?
I think the only like real sides like in like our country, it's not Republican and Democrat. Like I have more in common with like just your average American like Democrat than I have in common with like a super ultra like rich wealthy like politician or CEO. I think that's really what the two sides are. Like if you're gonna like pick anything to like be like divided against, I really think like the way our country works is it's the rich, like, and that's kind of, again, like I said, it's one of the shortcomings of capitalism. I mean, I wouldn't change it. I mean, we have a better economic system than anywhere else.
Yeah, there is no better system, but capitalism does have its shortfalls. Yeah. It does.
And what needs to happen, and this is one thing that RFK, he's kind of running on, is like breaking up like the big monopolies. Like, again, like media, there's like 6 companies that own everything, but those 6 companies are owned by the same 3, 4, 5 majority like index like funds that are just controlling everything. And I think what's happening is it's just concentrating all the power and everything up to the top. We don't have mom and pop shops like around anymore. I feel like the middle class has like been severely like depleted. There's no real balance of power. It's kind of all just like a triangle. Like it's all at the top, at the peak. And I think that's why they want to keep us divided and like peg us against each other, Republican, Democrat, stuff like that, so that we're not focused on like where the real division is and like where it
who's
actually
moving
matters.
the chess pieces kind of thing.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah. Well, I got a few things. This is just kind of some big ones that I noticed right away that there's a bias in media. A couple big moments that just made me think, what is up with that? Like, you know what I mean? Like the rougher generation, some farmers I know, and maybe some people I know, they have that saying, don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining. Okay. In 2020, there was a reporter on a news station, standing in front of a burning building, saying it's a mostly peaceful protest.
Yep.
And I said, what is up with that? That is the most insane statement I've ever heard. Turn around, guy. The building is burning behind you. Another one was the way, like I said, I'm big into following some of these guys that actually wanted to see the West. They're dead now, but there's people that they've influenced that are alive and doing stuff. They wanted to control language, and they wanted to control words, and they know how to do that. A couple years ago, Florida passed a bill called the Parental Rights and Education Bill. And you can look it up and see exactly what it stood for. And it was basically that, teachers and school administrators cannot talk to a kid. I believe it was preschool to third grade. They now want to take it a little bit further, maybe take it up into junior high, high school. But when it passed, it was teachers and administrators are not allowed to talk to preschool through third graders about sexuality, sexual identity, sexual orientation, none of that stuff. And I'm like, what is wrong with that? That is good. You talk, if somebody other than me is talking to one of my kids about any of that sexual stuff, you're going to jail or you're going to the hospital. That's perversion. The media comes out and calls that the Don't Say Gay bill. You do not, unless you watched a certain channel or you got your news from certain different social media sites, it was always called the Don't Say Gay bill. And I said, well, what is wrong? Why would you call it that? What is wrong with what's in that bill? No one should be talking to these kids about that stuff. The preschool through third grade, you're trying to go to school and not pee your pants. You're not thinking about what gender you are. It's like they're intentionally trying to confuse them. So I was like, what is up with that? And then the most recent one, I'm not the hugest Trump fan. I'm not. There's better people than him, more moral people than him. But if it comes down to him and someone else that doesn't align with a lot of the stuff that I believe, I think Trump will do better on some of those areas. So I'm going to vote for him. Mm-hmm. He had this awesome victory speech after the Iowa caucus. Super nice tone. Not like your typical Trump speech where he's throwing shade. He was very congratulatory and I mean, congratulatory. He won. That's not the word I meant. But you know what I mean? Like, he was just very respectful. It was a super good tone. Some of these other stations wouldn't carry it for a second. They said, we'll let you know if he says something that's, noteworthy or whatever like that, but we don't want to air lies, so we won't show it. And I was like, this is why so many people are upset, is because they would never give the guy a win. He's a rough guy. He's playing the game. I get it. But I look at what he did while he was president, and there's a lot that I agree with. There's some that I don't. That's just the way it falls. But why would you not air that? Because it makes him look good. And that's clearly what you're getting at is a bias in media. And I've got a million others, folks. If hopefully you're watching more than just one channel of news, because you'd see this kind of stuff too that Kaden's talking about and that I'm talking about. There's plenty others, but like I said, I've got a bedtime, so we're gonna keep going. You got anything else for that?
Yeah, I actually have one story about that. Just talk this kind of goes with like how they like selective like what they're showing and stuff like that. How, like they won't show like a minute of that speech. It's 2016. I want to say I was like maybe a junior or something then, or no, freshman. Sorry. Okay. This was during like the Iowa caucuses and stuff. Everything was going on. I was taking a current issues class in high school, and we got extra credit if we went to one of like the rallies. So me, Jaden Reed, and Chase Greaves, I think it was us three. We went, and the only one it was at Cal Congress. That was the closest one. It was Joe Biden. And we went there. I'm like, hey, whatever.
Get
like,
the
credit. I was actually hearing him out. And
hear what he has to say.
Yeah, and he started talking about like 60% income tax or something. I just remember looking over at my friends. I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know. I tried to give him a chance, but yeah. But anyways, we were out there at the end trying to like, because he was like out like shaking hands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was really, we were within like 5 feet of him, which is weird. I was like within like 5 feet of the president of the United States.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, he ended up packing up and leaving right before we got to see him. But there was some like news outlets there, and they came over to us because they saw some young kids there, and they're like, "Hey, can we interview one of you?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I go up and like they hand me the microphone and everything. And they're like telling me like, "Okay, we're gonna ask you a couple questions." And they start rolling and stuff. And he was like, "Hey, it's really nice to see like some young kids out here like like as like a student or like as like a young kid or whatever, like why do you feel it's important to like come out to these things? And I gave him the whole spiel, like like as like American citizens, like it's our right to be informed, it's like our duty to do that stuff. And he goes and like he asked me something like about like how do you feel about Biden, or like who do you support in this race so far? And I was like, I mean, I came out here, I figured I'd get a different perspective. I gave him a chance, but honestly support Trump. And he just like went like stone faced and like like he kind of like it's like, oh, like, and his response was literally, why? And then I like kind of explained it, and then like he just dropped, like they just dropped the camera and like walked away so fast. It was I'm like, that was not getting put on air.
Nope, you probably didn't make it, man. Oh, that's too bad. I know. And why? It's like, what do you mean why? Let's talk about the good things that he did. I mean, you just want to focus on the bad things of his personality, I guess, but oh, that's too bad. Well, that's how it works. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, I kept it real. They didn't like that.
All right, let's move on to number 2. What is up with the discussion about indoctrination instead of education in schools? We're talking both like public schools and college, and I hear some of this stuff is like creeping into even your private schools, which everyone thought, private school is safe. You're paying more money to send your kids there. Christian school, it's you're getting that worldview. And pretty much now you're seeing this huge rise in homeschool and homeschool co-ops because people aren't trusting so much anymore. But what's your take on indoctrination instead of education in schools?
Yeah, so I kind of have a problem with just public school, like all the way back to the roots of it. If you look back at it, our whole like school system is based off like some like 18th like Prussian model that was basically made to like produce factory workers, and like that's all. If you look at it, like when it was first introduced, like all the industrialists, like Rockefeller, like Carnegie, all these guys were really big on it, and they invested like tons of money. The General Board of Education was actually funded and like created by John D. Rockefeller, and he put like adjusted into inflation what is now like over like $1 billion into it. He was big into that into like the education, like public education system, and like standardized everything. Yeah. But I mean, if you know anything about that guy, like the only person he's focusing and worrying about is himself. Yeah. And so this was to him just an investment in getting workers. And I mean, have you ever heard the quote like, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers"? Yeah. Like that's true, and I really think that's like what like our school system effectively does. If you really look at it, industrialists on board, they benefit from like the 7-hour school days. I mean, if you think about it, like it's like school is like being in a factory. Everyone sits in chairs in lines and rows. You have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. You have to raise your hand to speak. You walk down the hall in a line, like things like that. Everyone eats at the same time. You get like a lunch break. Yeah. Like things like that. I mean, again, you're there for like 7 hours. If you think about how they grade stuff, A, B, C, like grade A, grade B, like, and that's like how they're grading like the students. Okay. You can draw so many parallels like between like public
I never
school
thought of it that
and,
way.
Like, the factory, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I remember as a senior thinking, I'm ready to stop like school and then trying to work a part-time job. I'm ready to just go to work about the same amount I go to school. You know what I mean? I remember thinking that like, yeah, I'm ready to just work, no school kind of thing. But
yeah, it's like schools are the factories and like we're like the product. Like, like you're like heard the song like by like Pink Floyd and like seen the music video.
Another brick in the wall.
Another brick in the wall, and how it's like putting them through and just turn them into like, that I mean, that's really, I mean, they kept it real. That's really what it is. They teach you just enough to like be able to like read, write, and like do like work, but not like they don't teach you how to like invest your money or like how to do like actual like life skills that's gonna like propel you to the top. That stuff's kind of gate kept by like the rich and stuff. Like how to get where they are is pretty gate kept, I think, and that's not something you're gonna learn in school. You're not gonna learn how to get rich in school.
That kind of surprised me. I remember talking to Bridget a couple years ago. Me, Sarah, and Bridget were sitting on the couch, and she asked one question about like interest, and so to explain the answer to that question, we had to talk, quite a bit about like personal finance and stuff and why staying out of debt is a good thing and all this stuff. And me and Sarah remember, like, we had a personal finance class in high school. And Bridget said she learned more in that 1 hour conversation on the couch than she learned about personal finance in all of school. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And she's like, and it was so simple. To explain interest is very simple. And to explain from a biblical perspective of why not to get into debt is very easy. You know what I mean? And it's like, but that's not the norm. It was so shocking to her. I was like, yeah, don't do the norm. That's just because the culture says it's normal and it's right. That's probably a good indication there's a much better way to do it. There's a much higher road to take. So, yeah, that's it. Kind of seems like it's. I mean, that's not indoctrination, I guess, but it's just like they're like you said, that information isn't passed down. I couldn't believe it. So.
Yeah, you think about like what's required, like English, math, history, stuff like that, like chemistry, stuff like that. Like that all goes away, but like there's not as much of a focus on like the electives, like business class or like carpentry, like shop class, like actual skills and stuff. Like that's not required, but like all this stuff is. I haven't used calculus a day in my life in the real world. Like you learn all this stuff that you forget about. A couple of years after graduating, like. I don't know about the periodic table and stuff like that. Like they teach you so much of this pointless stuff that you don't use, and it's like they could have been spending.
And every kid who's ever gone to school is going to understand what you mean. Like half of what you learn is you're never going to touch it again, but some of it you will. And dude, I think we're on the cusp of you're going to see a shift now. Because so many kids have got degrees and we've flooded the market with degrees. I think you'll see a big shift. Because I can remember being a senior in high school and basically being told, you're going to be a failure if you don't go to a 4-year school and get a degree. It's like, no, I think you can enter the work market. Yeah, I'm not going to make as much money. Dude, do I live in a dump? You're in my basement. It's not that bad. I mean, this is what lower middle class looks like. It's not that bad. I think you're going to see a big push for skilled trades again. You're going to see more, and people are already doing it. Electrician companies and HVAC and all that stuff. Well, like you don't even got to go to school. Come to work, they'll pay you to go to school. It's like, how did we get to that point? It's because they're that hard up for the workers. So, I mean, if you want higher education, good for you. Go get it. If you don't, you will not be a failure if you want to work. You can go to John Deere's right now, and Ryan Peterson, he tells me all the time, like, they can't get good workers in the door. It's very difficult to keep them. He said, if you want to make, $75, $80, $100,000 and work overtime, you can do it. If you want to make that but people don't want to work that hard. So people don't want to do it. It's kind of weird. What else you got about indoctrination? Or education.
Just so one thing to tag onto that too, like trade school is like phenomenal. It's great. You go 2 years, or even like apprenticeships. Like that's more like not even in the classroom. You're just learning that
in
through
the field.
Experience.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many people that are working at jobs that have nothing to do with like their degree or anything like that, but they're just learning from like working there, and just because they have a degree, they can get hired there. But what like as far as like public schools go, like I don't. It's not necessarily like the information, like they're teaching, like you learn to be literate and stuff like that, but like kind of like the underlying things that you get taught there is like obedience, like tolerance for like long hours. Like most kids, especially in elementary school, like what kind of 5-year-old in preschool has enough like is chill enough to sit through like 7 hours of school? Like it's not natural at all. But like they kind of beat that into you. Like
that's why you have nap time. That's why you have nap time in the middle.
Right.
After you eat.
But even like third graders and stuff, like I mean, you get recess and stuff, but like that's where you learn to be okay with just like sitting and like not like expressing a bunch of energy and stuff while you're young. I really think it's just like a factory just to make 9-to-5 workers that just so the rich can stay on top, and again like just keep everyone below them. Like a lot of smart people, like some of the smartest people hate school. Like Einstein hated school and stuff like that. There's a common misconception that he like got bad grades and stuff. I mean, he was smart, he was good in school. It's just he didn't like it, and because he understood it, kind of like zaps your creativity and stuff. Like so many.
A lot of geniuses performed poorly because it just couldn't. It wasn't engaging for them.
Some of like the biggest business owners in the world like either dropped out of college or like hated high school or weren't good students. But like again, that stuff doesn't translate at all into like starting your own business and stuff like that.
Right.
Like one thing they say a lot in schools is like, you know, if you can't get grades, like how are you supposed to get a good job? Like they just want you to get a job.
Yeah.
That's all. Like they want you kind of like set your expectations low, and it's kind of just ingrained in you at kind of a young age. And like you look at like billionaires and like politicians and stuff, they're not sending their kids to public school. They're going to like boarding school, like these like academies,
prep school academies,
private schools and stuff. And you know, private schools, if you look at the data, I mean, they outperform public schools so much, like not even close. And one good thing that's happening now, I think Kim Reynolds passed something where you can use like a tax stipend to get into public school, like to help pay for the tuition at private school.
Yeah, the school choice stuff.
Yeah. Which I think that's great. That's definitely a great step in the right direction. And especially a lot of those are like Christian stuff too, so you don't have to worry about your kids' morals getting attacked, because we're starting to see that. And this is where like the indoctrination part of this is coming in.
There we go.
In the public schools, how to bring it around town.
There you go.
Yeah. So you're not seeing this stuff in like Christian like private schools and stuff like that. It's in the public schools where most kids do go. And you know, that's why I'm saying, like, if we have the option to do that, I would like my kids to get homeschooled or go to like a Christian private school.
Dude, back in the day, if you homeschooled, it was like, man, that's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Now after 2020, it's like, wow, no, that's not weird. And the numbers will show, like, people who are homeschooled, they do just fine, if not overachieve when they get out in the real world too. Like you can do homeschool and not be a weirdo and have kids that can perform at a high level when they get out of there.
Right.
It's all changed. And you mentioned like the founding of school and stuff like that. Like if you go way back, like founding fathers type school, like they used to teach curriculum using the Bible, like a lot of the words and reading and stuff. They would use passages from Scripture, and the beginning concept of school was even different back then. But and then like even our colleges, like all the Ivy League schools that are super liberal and progressive right now, those were all like pastor training schools is what they were.
Right.
You know, people don't realize that. That's if you watch the documentary Monumental with Kirk Cameron, it is very interesting, very well done too. Keeps your attention, super interesting. But here's the thing about public school that's got me, and this is from the secularhumanism.com website. John J. Dunphy, award-winning essay, The Humanist, in 1983. He talks about this. He's quoted as saying, "The battle for humankind's future must be waged and won in the public school classroom by teachers who correctly perceive their role as the proselytizers of a new faith, a religion of humanity, utilizing a classroom instead of a pulpit to carry humanist values into wherever they teach. The classroom must and will become an arena of conflict between the old and the new. The rotting corpse of Christianity, together with its adjacent evils and misery, and the new faith of humanism." He's putting Christian morals against this new humanist ideology, and I think that's kind of the root of and Dunphy and John Dewey and all these guys, you know, that are into this humanist stuff and the Humanist Manifesto. They've been interested in our education system for a long time. I mean, you're talking back here in the 30s for some of this stuff, 80s. Wow. Yeah, I mean, this was a planned deal here. There's been people that have been attacking, like you said, the moral foundation of this stuff, and I think we saw that a couple years ago in a governor's race. Terry McAuliffe was running for governor of Virginia, and he was quite ahead of his challenger, Glenn Youngkin, until he said parents should have no role in directing the education of their children. And that ended up that was it. His numbers started to decline right then. Here's what he said, quote, "I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach." Well, why not? They're our kids. We put the school board members in there. Is it supposed to be the Department of Education is that much smarter than us parents that we get no say in what's done in public school?
I'm sure they'd like to think that.
I think that is what they think. So he said, he also said he's not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books out and make their own decisions. Dude, Can't do that. Not with public school. Those are our schools. Those are our tax dollars. We definitely should have a say. And we're going to get more into that in a little bit. But when it comes down to the whole just debate of indoctrination versus education, I always say teach them how to think, not what to think. Teach a kid how to think critically, how to think about an issue. Don't tell them what to think. Teach them how to think, okay? I think in 2020, those Zoom classes really surprised a lot of parents. And some of this stuff, I'm not trying to get gross, but it's just real. You can go online right now and look at the current Wisconsin school curriculum for 5th graders. I've saved it to my phone. It's on Twitter. It's everywhere. Listen to some of this stuff they're putting in here. This is a lesson plan, okay, that deals with hormones. It says a lesson plan from rights, respect, and responsibility, a K through 12 curriculum. And this is what Wisconsin's going to follow for 5th grade. Okay? And there's a part in here. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to describe 3 ways in which people may develop sexually over the course of their lifespan. Hey, we're good. Number 2, explain the roles of estrogen and testosterone and they have on a person as they develop physically and emotional. We're good there. Number 3, they will be able to explain what puberty blocker medications are and the role they play with transgender young people. Okay, so this is in 5th grade. All right, and I got a little highlighted part. It says, additionally, the lesson overviews what puberty blockers are and how they stop the impact of naturally occurring hormones for a youth who is transgender. I'm sorry, but if a kid is in 5th grade and they're confused about their gender, we don't start teaching them how to stop the natural process of the body. Okay? And they've got a whole section here that I'm looking at right now about puberty blockers and how it stops the changes of puberty, but you can't undo changes that have already happened if they start taking hormones of the sex that matches their gender identity. But I'll give them credit on this last part. It says a young person needs to talk with a parent, caregiver, or guardian and medical professional before starting. How about you go straight to the parent? How about we take the schools out of it, let the parents be parents, and the schools have no say in this kind of crap. This is a parental issue, and there's bad actors trying to confuse kids or further encourage confuse kids. There's a viral video out there of a dad. He pulled over because his wife called him after taking their 9-year-old son to a doctor visit for sports physicals. And this dad just went on a rant because the doctor asked the 9-year-old, First thing, he says, do you identify as a boy, girl, non-binary, or gender fluid? You're going to ask a 9-year-old that who's not confused, who wants to play Little League Baseball. If he's not confused, he's going to be after leaving your office because now you just opened his world up. And I think that's the problem with indoctrination is they're not teaching kids how to think. They're intentionally telling them what to think or intentionally confusing them. This stuff isn't stuff we used to talk about. I know it existed. I've been honest on this podcast. I've studied this gender stuff for a long time. I try to know the ins and outs of it, of people who are in it, people who have gone through it and come out of it, and people who are in it and still in it, and they will go to their grave thinking it was the best thing for them. I'm willing to have those conversations. This stuff isn't good, and I don't want anybody talking to my kids about it or indoctrinating them with it. If my kids are confused, I'm going to talk to them. And we can get into the whole discussion. Like I said, we talk about words mean something. Why are we calling Christian counseling conversion therapy? If you got a confused kid, isn't the conversion therapy administering puberty blockers, having sex change surgery, stuff like that? Right. To me, that's conversion therapy because you're telling this kid you were born this way, but we can make you into something else. Mm-hmm. Conversion therapy isn't helping a kid through that, saying, yeah, this is a weird time. You got hormones and your mind isn't matching your physical body. Let's work through this. Let's get through puberty. A lot of this stuff can resolve itself if they just go through puberty. Listen to some of these people that did it. You know what I mean? But it's weird, like Amazon and some of these other companies, they won't publish those people's books. Or they won't sell them. They'll get them published, but they won't sell them. They don't want that side of the story out there, and there's plenty of them. Look up the D-Trans documentary by PragerU. Super good. It's only like 20 minutes long. Listen to Daisy Strong and listen to Abel Garcia. Listen to their stories and how they went through it all. You know what I mean? Don't confuse these kids. Don't indoctrinate these kids. Tell them how to think. Teach them how to think, not what to think. And that's all I'm going to say on that because I'll get into that stuff again and again and again. But
yeah.
plenty of good stuff out there.
Yeah, I definitely think it's almost like an attack on our youth. Like, it's not like they're just educating about this; they're like impressing it upon them.
Yeah, there you go.
It's not. Yeah. It's different, and I really have a problem when they start trying to like take the roles away from parents and try to do like what their job is and things like that, like educating about that stuff. Like, I get like you take like sex ed class in high school, but like when they take it too far when they're like talking about all this like gender and like sexuality stuff.
Yeah, that stuff didn't need to be in there.
Yeah, that doesn't.
I think I took it in 7th
pregnant.
grade. It was 7th grade, I think. And it was perfectly normal. This is what's going to, and my wife told me, like, I think it was before that up here, like, they take the girls in one room, they talk to them about the changes that are coming, boys in the other. That simple. If you got a kid that's confused, guess what? You make a phone call to home. You don't develop a whole nother thing, keep the parent in the dark, start calling them by another name. Some of that stuff has happened in different school districts across the country. Man, that is not right, guys. We got to do better than that. I know we can. Let's help these kids. Let's not further confuse them. So.
Yeah. And I know, like, as a parent, you should be having, like, the birds and the bees talk with your kids and stuff. Like, that's your job.
Yeah.
And, like, the school shouldn't be doing that. Mm-hmm. Just, like, I know, like, back in the day, like, the school used to teach stuff out of, like, the Bible and stuff. But, like, I don't want the school... I wouldn't want a school teaching my kids that stuff. That's, like, my job as a parent and stuff.
Yeah.
So... like, as much as like that would like kind of be nice in a way, like I just don't think that's like the government's job, or they shouldn't be involved in that.
Well, here's how some people think about it. When we took prayer out of schools and the Bible out of school and things like that, which, just to clear up, if any young people are listening, young people are so confused about what their rights are as a Christian in public school today. Yep. You have a lot of rights. You don't check your Christianity at the door. You want to pray before you eat? You absolutely can. A teacher tells you not to, we have a conversation, because that's a potential lawsuit. You have rights. You can do that. You can read your Bible during non-instruction time. You can share, things, biblical things. You can do papers on biblical topics. You can do all these different things. You can pass out gospel tracts during non-instruction time. You can't cause a disruption, but you don't check your Christianity at the door of public school. You have rights as a human being, and those are given to you by God. They can't be taken away by anybody else. So just go ahead and look up students' rights in public schools, or go to truthforyouth.org, I think it is, and you can get a free Bible, and on that Bible, all those rights are listed there. So yeah, back in the day, though, if you listen to people who were in school or whatever, when they took prayer out, took the Bible out, they'll tell you, like, it didn't take very long, and you can quickly see you remove God from public, because a lot of people are the way you think. Like, I just want it to be neutral. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Let me handle teaching my kid their worldview. You teach both sides. Teach intelligent design and evolution, the theory of evolution. Yeah. Okay? Just don't impress them one way or the other. Teach them how to think. Let them make their own decisions, and we'll impress our worldview upon them the way we want as their parents. People who grew up in public school, when that stuff started getting taken out of there, the Bible, prayer, they'll say it's pretty clear to see within the next 10, 20 years, you take God out of schools, the devil moved in. Yep. So we sit here and say we want it neutral because that sounds right, and I'd be happy with that. But people who have actually lived through it, they kind of say, listen, you remove that from school. Even if everybody wasn't a Christian, it was still a good foundation for education. You took that out, the devil moved in, and that's where we're at. So I guess, I don't know, I'd say I'd love it to be neutral, but I guess I'd say I'd also love it to be still just a Christian foundation. Even though that's not technically right, we should be happy with neutral, but we're so far from neutral anymore. So
yeah, in the perfect world where we could just have it neutral, and not like be teaching
things
and
yeah,
that don't
so
need to be taught in a school.
I should be like you. If I cared that much, or I was that worried, I should be doing homeschool. Yeah. Or doing private school, or make those sacrifices, and I haven't done that, so I'm not gonna complain. But it is a lot of work to try and monitor everything my kids are being taught, everything they're doing on social media. I don't think you can monitor 100% of it, but it's a heavy burden on a dad. I'll tell you that. Yeah. That I wish I didn't have to worry about, but that's it. Mm-hmm. So, all right, let's go on to the next one. Unless you got anything else for that.
Yeah, maybe just like one more thing. Just talk about like, yeah, it's definitely true. Like the devil moved in. Like you get rid of that stuff, and now next thing you know, like there's things like critical race theory. Like again, like pushing like these like hormone blockers on kids and stuff. I mean, you take like they're giving these like they're telling this stuff to like little like young kids. Like they don't have like an understanding or a concept of real life at that point. Like if you take a kid that age and ask them if they want $50,000 or if they'd rather go to Disneyland, they'd be like, oh, take me to Disneyland or something like that. Like they don't have the capacity to make like smart like choices like that, and they can't fathom like the effects of like what this would do to them. And it's like they're targeting them and trying to push them into this stuff. And like sometimes it's the parents too. And even if you take like away like the rights of the school and stuff and you leave it up to the parents, like there's a lot of parents that are pushing this stuff on their kids even then. So I don't know, it feels just like an attack on our kids, especially like all like I've seen a lot of like clips about like the kind of books and stuff that are in schools now. It's like pornographic content, like talking about like in depth about like gay intercourse and stuff like that. And like parents are coming to the school boards just furious, like saying like, how is this allowed in here? Like I can't read Huckleberry Finn in school anymore, but I can read talking about like 50 Shades of Gay.
All Boys Are Blue, Flamer, Genderqueer. I know all about these books. Kirk Cameron started a whole new like book fair type company because Scholastic Books is in on some of this stuff. And you think about it, everyone knows Scholastic Books. That's been the only book fair at a public school forever. They're the monster of the industry. And he said, listen, here's a list of the stuff they're selling that's not good. And so he created Sky Tree Book Fairs. And I've got a whole solo episode coming out. So based on how this works, I don't know if that episode is going to come out before or after yours, but I got a whole couple segments based around that kind of material and about an interview a lady named Tiffany Justice did with Joy Reid on MSNBC. She went into enemy territory, and they talked about this book, All Boys Aren't Blue. And it's disgusting. This Joy Reid tried defending this book that talked about a kid being raped and stuff by a family member and a strap-on dick. And I'm just like, how are you justifying this, Joy Reid, on national cable news? Tell me, I don't care about, she's tried claiming context. It's like, tell me what context that's appropriate to be in a public school. All the way up to high school. Nope, sorry. You're a pervert then. And you shouldn't be anywhere near any kids. So, and the whole thing about book bans, it's like, okay, don't ban it. I'm for free speech. That's fine. Print that book. Sell that book. Do whatever you want with that book. Do not put it in a library where my kid's going to school. It's that simple. It's not a book ban. Whoever wants to read it can read it. Not kids. Not kids. And then the other thing, the last thing, and then we're moving on. Like you said, kids are impressionable. They're young. They can't make smart decisions. We have to protect them. I talked about that biblically on the last episode. Common sense, folks. Common sense. They can't smoke, drink, get a tattoo, do any of this stuff until they're a certain age. Why on earth are we letting them steer the conversation and alter their bodies as young as they want? Not right. No one will ever be able to tell me a better reason against that there is no better reason. That makes no sense. Let's just let them do whatever they want to do then. Light them up, kid, on your way to kindergarten. You know what I mean? That makes no sense. Come on, we can do better than that, people. If they're confused, let's get them some help. Let's not dive into that perverse reality. Okay? All right, we got to move on. Move on.
That's a great point to end off on.
Yeah, there we go. The one most people have been just dying for the What Is Up podcast to get into, the Epstein suicide. And then I put in parentheses, also crack in the White House. But both of those events, absolutely no camera footage. What's your take? You wanted to talk about this.
Yeah. I'm actually just going to focus on the Epstein one. I didn't really hear that much about the White House one.
No, because it was out of the media very quick. Yeah. That's why you missed it.
There's probably like a 90% chance that was Hunter Biden's doing, right?
The pieces kind of fit together, but I wouldn't confirm it. No.
Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't looked into that one at all. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna focus on the Epstein one because I mean this just goes so deep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean starting off like the guy is just like a master manipulator. Like everything he did was like fraudulent.
Okay.
His first he didn't even graduate college, but he like lied on all of his resumes, getting into. He was a school teacher, and then he ended up working for Bear Stearns, which is like a big finance firm,
investment firm,
firm. Basically lied his way all the way into there. And basically the theme of this is he just gets away with everything because he has connections. He knows the right people. He knows what to say to get out of things like this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what propelled him to the top. But it's so disgusting how long he got away with this. He was doing stuff with underage girls for almost 3 decades. This was going on in the 90s, and it took almost up until the 2020s till this was actually like something that like materialized.
That people brought forward and stuff happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically like what he did starting off is he'd just have girls like he'd recruit girls from like high schools like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,
Mm-hmm.
like come over to his house, and like they would give him like massages.
Yeah.
Give him $200 for it. You know, he'd lure him in with that. He wouldn't say like they'd go in just thinking they're gonna give this rich guy a massage. Like, oh my gosh, $200, which back then was like that's like nothing now, but yeah, back then that was not kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And then like they get in there, and then it just turns into something like that they totally weren't expecting, and he kind of just like coerced them into it. It wasn't like he was like grabbing them and like violently, like it was just like a like smooth,
like you said, manipulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like they're going to this like guy's house. They've never been there before. He's like some powerful guy. He's got connections like presidents and stuff, and they're scared. Like I listened to like the documentary on Netflix, and like it's like you hear from like some of the victims, and it's like really sad because they're like I didn't know if I was like he was gonna kill me, like stuff like that, and like they're just doing whatever to get out of there. But what it turned into is he basically had like a pedophilia like a pyramid scheme going on, because like he'd have other girls, he'd give them $200 to recruit other like high school. He basically just infiltrated like all the schools around like Palm Beach is where most of this was happening, in like Florida at first.
Yeah.
And they were getting paid to like recruit other girls in, and like it's just bad because it's not like he was like kidnapping girls off the street or anything like that. He was just like lying to them, tricking them to get into his house, and then like just taking it south. And a lot of these girls were like troubled, like had like bad past experiences or like bad home life.
They got taken advantage of, really. Yeah. And then that one, his one lady, she kind of helped. I read a lot about her. Like she helped make them feel at ease, like luring them in because she was a female, and kind of the same stuff. Yeah, it's messed up, man. Messed up.
It's a big deal. He had like a whole thing going on. And so eventually one of the girls like told her mom or something like that, and they brought it to the police department, and they started an investigation. And a lot of people don't know this, but he actually like was arrested, like put on trial
early
in like 2008, 2006 or something. But so they started building up like a case, started getting witnesses, and they'd like connect witnesses together, and like these girls would describe like details of it. Girls who had never met each other would like corroborate the stories like perfectly in like great detail and stuff.
Yeah.
So eventually they get a search warrant, and they go search his house, empty, all like the hard drives and like all the information, like the whole house had been like swept. He basically had been like tipped off. Yeah. And he would like tell some of these girls, like when they'd like if they would like show that like they were uncomfortable with it and stuff, he'd tell them like I own the police department, like I have like connections and stuff like that, like I know where you live, and like he was really big on like threatening like these girls, and like or like even they'd like turn in like police reports and stuff, and like just nothing would happen about it. They wouldn't hear back. That was a big theme about what I saw from a lot of his victims. He was trafficking girls across the country, like lending them out to like other like big political like people he had connections with and stuff. He's trafficking across the country.
And that's where the plane and the island comes in a lot.
Yeah. He had a place in Manhattan. A lot of this stuff was going on. He had the island, of course. So he eventually gets arrested and gets charged with stuff. And so he has up to this point like 30 victims. They have a bunch of like eyewitness, like like reports and stuff, like firsthand reports and stuff, and they bring it to like the court, and like all like the attorneys are like, oh, these girls aren't going to make like good like witnesses,
character witnesses.
And they reduce the charges down to soliciting prostitution and procurement of minors for prostitution. No sex trafficking, nothing admitting that he raped, because he did rape some of these girls, not even just molest them, like actually like rape them and stuff like that. All those charges got dropped, and it gets brought down to 2 charges that are like class D misdemeanors, like $100 fee, like unbelievable. Yeah, all these charges just fall off like overnight, and it's just the whole thing's really suspicious. So the police department is just like the West Palm Police Department, I think, was the one that was part of this, and they kind of circumvented like the county. I think it was like first like a county charge, and they brought it straight to federal.
Okay.
And got them involved, and then there was like FBI investigators and stuff, and basically Epstein like created like the dream team of like 8 lawyers, like the best lawyers like in like the New York, like Florida area.
Okay.
He had I think his last name's like Dershowitz. That's the guy who got O.J. Simpson free from his charges.
Who was that?
I think it was Alan Dershowitz. I think
was it really
or something like that. Yeah.
Was he on the OJ trial?
Yeah, he was like OJ's lawyer. He got O.J. Simpson free. He a bunch of other like big name like celebrities and stuff.
I thought
like
the
that.
OJ thing, and that was Johnny Cochran was the black guy, and there was a white guy. I can't remember what his name was, but
it might have been him.
But yeah, some of these guys have like guys behind the scenes that you don't see in the courtroom or whatever.
Time.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He started hiring like private investigators, and then they like follow around the victims and like shine the like they'd like park in like on the side of the road and like shine their lights in their rooms. Like some of like the FBI and like federal prosecutors would have like bullets like show up on their doorstep, like a bullet, stuff like that. Yeah, he hired like a bunch of investigators to, like follow these guys around and like harass them and stuff.
That's like what Scientology does. That they call it their fair game policy. If you badmouth Scientology, like they will harass you, they will do whatever they can to get you to shut up and leave them alone. Mm-hmm. It's the same stuff. You're saying they were intimidating people and everything.
Yeah, because this guy's just powerful. He's got all this money to like do this kind of stuff, and
he knows the right people. Yeah.
And this is how he initially got away with it, like all the way up until some victims finally like were brave enough to come forward. Because I mean, these girls are scared. Like this guy's like he knows like presidents and stuff like that. Like imagine that kind of power. Like what, like you could ruin someone's life with that.
Right.
Yeah. So the U.S. attorney that was in charge of it was Alex Acosta.
Okay.
He actually ended up working in like the Labor Department or something for Trump.
Yep.
But yeah, so this whole time like Epstein's like getting on the victims, the prosecutors like doing like scare tactics, whatever he can to get out of this, because like I mean this guy's just a guy that's powerful and he's used to getting away with stuff. Yeah, I mean he should have faced life. I mean he should have been locked away forever.
Oh, definitely.
Everyone involved in this case thought like, all right, we're putting this guy behind bars forever, and then it's just one thing after another. Like they get there, half the charges drop off. And then they're getting ready to do the court case, and like he comes in, like puts like first they did like a deposition and everything. That's like what the clips you see are.
Yeah, the audio or video and audio. Yeah.
Yeah, but then it comes like the court date. He comes in, they take like a DNA sample. He does like a thumbprint thing. And he walks out, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" Like they had cut a plea deal, like outside of like the court and everything without anyone knowing. He pleads guilty. And sentenced to 18 months of work release too. So he's allowed to go home and like work and stuff like that.
Unbelievable.
18 months. And I think it was in like a county jail. He didn't even go to like federal or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's just like, how does this happen? Like seriously, this guy realistically should be in jail for the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. He's trafficked and raped 30 different victims plus who've all come forward. Probably some even more that are unnamed. I mean, he has all these co-conspirators. Like this is like a network going. He doesn't do this by himself. Like one person that's with it, like Ghislaine Maxwell, is like helping procure these girls. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have on tape girls like corroborating that have never met each other, like the story in perfect detail, or even some incriminating themselves in crimes, talking about how they were recruiting other girls,
right? Yeah,
and stuff like that. It's unreal how like, and that kind of just shows you how like the rich and wealthy like. They just get away with this stuff. Like politicians, like same thing. Like they just get let off the hook so easy just because of the connections they have. So part of that plea deal guaranteed Epstein and co-conspirators gave them immunity.
Immunity.
Yeah. They went from should have been behind bars for his life to getting immunity, and none of his his co-conspirators too. So they cut him loose and all the people that are also involved in it is just unreal. And so a lot of people were going after Acosta, like, dude, how could you let this happen? Like, this is unreal. And he's on record saying that he was told that Epstein,
stand down.
Yeah, he was told that Epstein was intelligence and he's above his pay grade and he needs to stand down. Now, there's only 2 people in the United States who constitutionally can give him an order like that. It's the U.S. Attorney General and the President of the United States. Mm-hmm. So this was not like, one of his, like someone equal or below his level, like telling him. This is like coming from like the top of the United States.
The only ones that could give him an order.
Yeah. And I don't know who was president at that time. Like 2008 was that. Yeah, I'm not even sure. Like Bush or
8 would have been Bush.
Bush, yeah.
Yeah, W.
Pretty sure if you look, he's probably on one of those lists. So,
or no, it could have been when Obama took over. It would,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's election year, right?
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember if it was 2006 or 2008.
Okay. Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah.
It would have been Bush or Obama.
Well, either way, like 5 of the last presidents we've had are all on that list that's came out recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trump, Obama, Bill Clinton, like 28 times.
Yeah. He was associated with a lot of people. Some way more associated as far as dealings than just knowing who he is. But yeah, that's messed up. All right, what else you got?
Yeah. So basically, the point is this came up from like way top. So this just shows the kind of connections this guy has.
Yeah.
And if those kind of people are connected to him, what does that say about like our government?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is kind of what I was talking about. Like, people are starting to wake up to like how like corrupt our government is. Like,
kind of
this
erosion
kind of
of
stuff.
your faith and trust in the government.
Yeah,
Sure.
seriously. I mean, like, how can you get away with this stuff? Yeah. So Acosta, he ends up becoming like the Secretary of Labor under Trump, who was a friend of Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's just some things about Trump I just don't really know how to feel. Like, he's probably the best Republican candidate. He's like by far in ahead, like winning in like the caucuses and everything. He's just overwhelmingly popular. I don't really trust him that much. He's hiring a guy that let Jeff Epstein off the hook. I mean, maybe he was threatened. Maybe he didn't want to do that. I don't know. There's just but like he was friends with them. They hung out at like Mar-a-Lago and like Florida and stuff. So
he eventually kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, though.
Yeah, he was trying to like recruit one of the chicks that worked there or something.
Yeah. But there's still plenty to not like about Trump. Yeah. If you want to not like him, there's all kinds of character stuff not to like about him for sure.
Yeah, and as like right wing, like it's our duty to like be like fair and like call him out for that kind of stuff and not be super one sided.
No.
I mean, that's one thing that there's not enough of these days.
Yeah.
So I mean, we have Acosta like on record saying that like he's told to stand down because this guy's intelligence. I mean, what I think is happening and what a lot of people think is Epstein was running like honeypot operations like with either like the CIA or like the Mossad.
Okay.
And basically the fact of it is he's getting all these high profile political figures and like CEOs and stuff on video. He has video of
he's getting dirt on them.
Yeah, he's getting dirt on them, doing stuff with minors. Now, it's possible that some of these people on the black book might have like not known what they're getting into. Maybe he said, oh, these girls are 18, 19 or something like that. Not all the people in that book probably did incriminating stuff. I know people like RFK are on there, but it's only because like he like flew with them on the plane like with his kids to like for like the holidays or something like that. Like there's a lot of people that are on there that are actually innocent.
Very,
like,
very loosely associated with him, instead of saying associated with. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, like I don't think RFK was on there raping kids when his own children were with him on the plane. Like I just don't. Yeah, I don't believe that. But he definitely was getting dirt on a lot of prominent figures. Prince Andrew being one, Bill Clinton being a huge one. Just about every. You think about your favorite actor, he's probably on there. Your favorite politician, he's on there. Your tech CEO billionaire, Bill Gates is on there.
Yeah,
a lot of times. And a lot of people kind of wonder where he gets all of his money. Well, I'm blanking on his name. It's the guy who owns like L companies, like Victoria's Secret and a bunch of like Abercrombie and Fitch. He was close to Epstein, and Epstein ended up getting named like gave him like power of attorney over like his estate.
Okay.
And he also had a bunch of other like billionaire friends that like after like they died, they like entrust them to like $100 million houses and stuff like this. Like, he might be charismatic and stuff. I think he just had dirt on these people, and he's getting like kickbacks and stuff because he's like, I could ruin your entire public image, or you can, give me some stuff on the side. Because like no one's giving away $100 million houses to him and stuff like this. Like that's just simply not. Like this guy had an eye. Like he was a financier at Bear Stearns, who like I'm pretty sure they got shut down because they were doing like a Ponzi scheme, like fraud too. And so he was definitely getting money from other stuff. He's got an island. He's got like crazy expensive houses. He's
hooked up.
Yeah. And it's got to be with intelligence or something. Like, I mean, it's known that they do this kind of stuff all the time.
So if he's got immunity, if he's working with CIA or United States government to get dirt on whoever they want, so that they can then, use them or blackmail them or whatever. Let's say that's all true. How does he get into jail and commit suicide? How does he end up getting put in jail for one, and then how does he end up committing suicide?
Yeah, eventually.
Explain. That's not adding up.
Yeah, because there is some good actors in this. I believe like the police officers and like stuff like that. Like there's undeniable evidence, and there's only really so much you can get like away with. Maybe eventually the CIA or whoever's hiring them like kind of like had their use with them, and then like, well, because he gets put in prison and stuff, but we all know what happens there. You know, it's like a classic like mafia. You ever seen a mafia movie? Like they get put in prison, whacked. You know, like he didn't stand trial for any of this stuff. He didn't talk about anything. They whacked him. Like there's only so much you can do to fight against.
But why, if he's safe, if the United States government is protecting him, how does he end up getting offed? Or why does he feel the need, if he did kill himself, to kill himself?
It was just immunity for the crimes that he had done, right? Or was it for the first time he gets immunity? Was it just for the crimes that he had committed
I think
there?
this was going to be a whole new like trial and everything.
Yeah.
So
he didn't have immunity from like all this stuff. He had like immunity from the stuff that happened in like Florida and like the first case. From what I understand.
It's just weird to me that he kills himself. If he's got protection, why does he kill himself? Well, see what I mean? That doesn't add up, does it?
I think there's a lot of people that would not want him to squeak because he's a snitch. He's a known snitch. Bear Stearns, the company he was at, he told it all, talking about like the whole Ponzi scheme they're running and stuff like that, so he could get out of it. So you got a guy like that who's got a video of you having sex with a 12-year-old on an island, or he's working for the CIA who offs people all the time and ties up all their loose ends, who's a known snitch, going to be in court. Who knows how to get off the hook.
So yeah, he's got dirt on too many people, and somebody decided to maybe take care of it while he was on the inside.
I definitely think so.
How do you explain not having any camera footage in a prison like that?
Well,
or a holding cell, or whatever you want to call it. How do you explain no guards saw anything? Their camera malfunction. You want to talk about people losing trust in the media. How do you explain that as a young kid who at your age, you should have the utmost trust in every aspect of our country, and you obviously already understand, no, don't trust anything. How does that happen? How do we not have any video evidence of this? He committed suicide in prison, and it was on suicide watch.
Yep.
Yet no guards.
Well, they took him off suicide watch like right before he got killed.
Conveniently.
Yeah. Well, he was on suicide watch. Did you see a picture of the roommate, the cellmate they had with him?
No, I saw a picture of the room after the alleged suicide.
He first gets in there. His roommate is this big, huge, buff dude who's in jail. He was a cop and he killed a bunch of people. Like jacked. Like looks like he could like destroy Popeye in an arm wrestling contest. And so like they get in the room and he's like almost dead one time. He was getting strangled or something like that, and like that's why they put him on suicide watch, because like he was trying to kill himself. Like the cop was like the guy that had him in there with was like there to like kill him. Like that's like they staged him to like set him up to put him in there with that guy.
Oh wow.
He's this huge like cop like killer guy, and like basically they think he somehow got slipped out of that one. That's why they put him on suicide watch in the first place. So he's put on suicide watch, and they take him off it like a couple weeks later. Like nothing, like when like the normal like the way you do things in jail, like you don't take them off like that early. Like it's not like that. It's
not protocol.
Yeah. Like they weren't following protocol when they did. Like nothing. Like everything about this was out of the ordinary. Like all of a sudden he's back off suicide watch. Now he's in a cell by himself though. The first try didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're going to tell me, okay, the camera didn't work. Both the security guards that were doing it were asleep, like sleeping on the job when you have like a guy who already was almost killed once and is like about to stand trial and like potentially expose like princes and royalty and like tech company billionaires for like having sex with like 12-year-olds on your little rape island. And like you're just sleeping on the job, like
that doesn't happen.
Not at all. So yeah, all that stuff happens. By the way, both the guards, if you didn't know this, were pardoned by a federal judge, and one of them still works for the government.
Okay, no, I didn't hear what happened to them after that.
Yeah, so they definitely were part of it because they got a nice little. They got let off the hook easily, and I don't know, whatever they were getting paid or whatever happened. Like Okay. There's just too much. You get to a certain point where too many things add up that can't just be a coincidence at all.
You end up asking yourself, what is up?
What is up with
Man.
that? Yeah. I think more than likely he was CIA, because they're the kind of people that would have access to a prison like that. Like you're a government agency, like they kind of work together and stuff. I find it less likely that it's some like billionaire, like rich person that he has dirt on that are worried about this stuff.
Okay.
They're just gonna lawyer up anyways, and they know how to they get out of stuff like that all the time. I think it's definitely like the CIA tying up loose ends. But the autopsy, the initial one, they do it, whatever. Okay, he killed himself. There's no the paramedics, no EMS report about that, and like a bunch of like official reports, like by protocol that should be there, like were never filed or made or anything. They have like an independent like examiner come and look at the body later, and like they're like they decide that he killed himself. Like so yeah, obviously like there's something up there.
Yeah.
One of the people, if I can find it, okay, his name is Dr. Bodden. He was present at the autopsy. I'm pretty sure it was the independent one. This is his job. This is his life. He's done over 1,000. He was on 60 Minutes talking about this. He's done over 1,000 prison suicide autopsies. He's been doing this job for like 40, 50 years. And he says, like, in like my 40 years of doing this, over 1,000 autopsies, I have like never seen 3 broken bones in the neck like how he had. Like basically the way it is like his neck was broken in 3 different places. Usually it's only 2.
Yeah.
And what he did was classified as like a soft hanging, because he used like the bed sheet.
The sheet.
Yeah, and it's not like he had room to like jump where your neck just snaps like that. So his neck was broken in a way that's not consistent with what feasibly would have been able to happen.
Yeah, with the soft hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Given like the circumstances. Not to mention like they found Epstein like I want to say like 2 or 3 hours after he was already dead too. Like he'd been dead for a while, because these guys are sleeping on the job. Cameras malfunctioning. Whoops.
Unbelievable.
I'm sure that probably makes the autopsy harder too. But you have this guy who's been doing this forever, and he goes on 60 Minutes live television saying like, I've done like thousands of these. I've never seen this before.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't happen like this.
Doesn't add up at all. Yeah. And so, I mean, at a certain point, you have to decide what's more like improbable, like the fact that he killed himself like this, or the fact that, he has ties to the CIA. He's like, he might like expose them for like a lot of things they do. Like, yeah. I mean, they've killed people before. JFK, you ever heard like his story, like his speech about like secret societies and how he wants to like splinter the CIA into like a million pieces and blow them into the dust, and then
he's gone.
And then he's gone. He's driving down the road, gets shot. Like, yeah. And then, so he gets killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. And from all of what a lot of experts say, like probably a few more people, then Lee Harvey Oswald gets killed. Like, and they just whack. Like, they're just cleaning up their loose ends. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the theory on that one.
Yeah. CIA, they kill people all the time, American citizens. Like, it's well documented. I believe they're a totally evil agency that are in violation of so many like human rights, and like completely overstep their boundaries all the time.
Sure.
Yeah. Like if you want to look up something like about CIA, look up like Operation Northwood, stuff like that. Like it's like it's bad stuff. It's like rabbit hole, but
okay.
It might be worth looking into. So now Epstein's gone, and we have Ghislaine left. She's like his known associate. She's been with him the whole time. Yep. Her dad, a Mossad agent, turned like global, like he had like a giant like empire, like media empire, and they like published like journals and stuff like that. Whole story about him too. Yeah. But so then she, like a couple years later, like she's like hiding and stuff, like going around, and like they finally get her or whatever, and they get her in. And she gets put on suicide watch, and she's telling reporters, I am not suicidal. Like, yeah. Surprisingly, she makes it to her trial. Again, not televised, nothing. Yep. I mean, we have the Rittenhouse trial that got televised, the Depp trial, cameras everywhere. Like O.J. Simpson's trial. Like, these are like big trials, and like oh, and a lot of people say, okay, well, it's a federal trial, so they don't allow cameras. Well, they do. They usually don't. But something like this, they usually would make an exception for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going on. You know, it gets next to no media coverage. That was like, what, a couple years ago, and we're just now getting, like, the lists are just now
we're just getting
out.
some information.
Yeah, the FBI has all the DVDs. They raided the island, took all the DVDs, that video evidence of because he had hidden cameras in his house and stuff. He's got like pictures of like these like high profile people doing stuff with these kids.
But we won't see.
We'll never see those, never.
No.
And like that's the real stuff right there, because you know, whatever, you're on a book from a guy that had connections to a bunch of people, you could just say, oh, I was just, it's
give any random explanation for it. Yeah.
And the kind of lawyers that these people have, it's not, and they'll get in court battles forever because they just have the resources for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. Like in the end, he kind of got away with it. Epstein did, because he never really got to stand trial and get convicted for any of this stuff.
Yeah.
He kind of got the easy way out.
Yeah. Well, if he didn't repent before the lights went out, man, he didn't get the easy way out.
No.
There's hell to pay for people who take advantage of kids and hurt kids. I've quoted scripture on here many times. Mm-hmm. So it's a bad deal. Yeah. But
another thing pretty crazy about the Ghislaine trial too, she actually was facing charges of like prostitution, sex trafficking, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sentenced 20 years. She got sentenced to 20 years for all this stuff.
Yeah. She
was a known associate, and she was recruiting these girls for prostitution. She was sex trafficking them across the country.
Yeah.
To get raped, and she gets 20 years in prison. People get put in prison longer for selling drugs.
Yeah.
Like, and some of the sentences, like, I think maybe like the sex trafficking one of like a minor, I think like the max sentence on that's like 40 years, which honestly I think that should be raised. But like just from that one alone, she could have got 40 years. But through like, I think she got 5 of 6 charges was 20 years.
Dang.
Like, come on. Like, that is such soft sentencing.
That's lenient. Yeah.
Very, very. She's getting like 6 life sentences stacked on top of each other.
Well,
just makes no sense.
There you go, everybody. There's some information. If you hadn't been researching this stuff, Kaden sure did. There's some info. Why don't you chew on that and tell me what you think? Send me an email at whatisuppodcast@gmail.com. Tell me what you think. Do you trust that stuff, or do you think something fishy's going on? Just another simple example would be the crack in the White House. That was found, what was that, last year? Last year. Crack cocaine in the White House. Is there a more secure building in the United States of America? I don't think so. I think that investigation lasted, 3 days tops? And they deemed, nope, can't figure out whose it was, where it came from, nothing. And that was it. Never to be heard from again. You've got to be kidding me. No camera footage, you can't track it down. I get it was in some cubby in some room. You cannot tell me we can't figure out whose cocaine that was and how it got in there. You really can't. I mean, I don't care if it was in somebody's pocket and they just dumped it out in the hallway in a split second. We've got a camera. I'm not buying it. That's crazy. That's insane. Sticking with the child sex trafficking, your last topic, the big one. I mean, I guess that probably was the big one. But it's kind of a related topic. The movie, The Sound of Freedom. It's true story. I believe it is on Amazon Prime right now. So everyone, I encourage you to go watch that. True story about Tim Ballard, former Department of Homeland Security agent. He busts these pedophiles, and he gets tired of just busting the bad guys. He wants to bring kids home. He wants to rescue kids and restore these families. And the United States government would only let him go so far, only have so many resources to do it. So he eventually says, I've got to go out on my own and do it. But there was pushback about this film, and there's quite a bit. So I'm going to let Kaden tell you a little bit about the pushback behind Sound of Freedom, and maybe why would you not want this movie to be made or to be released?
Yep. So between these 4 options I picked, there's a lot of themes that like kind of intersect and cross.
Yeah.
That's why I chose them, because they kind of fit all together.
Yeah, they do.
This one's definitely going along with like the Epstein like pedophile thing. Like, what is up with like this in our country?
Yeah.
Today there's more slaves than there ever have been in history. They're all sex slaves virtually.
Yep.
And most of them are underage. A lot of them are kids, young women. And also young boys too. That's another thing that doesn't get talked about too. That's also a big thing that's going on in our country, the world.
Yep.
I don't know. It's honestly like, I get it in other countries, but like in the U.S., like, man, like we got to be held to a higher standard than that.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
That's just sad. It really is. Another connection, I forgot to mention this earlier. This one's kind of crazy. This one, not to go back, not to retrace my steps a little bit, but Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Mossad agent, and then after that, he's like has like a media empire, and like they publish like medical reports and like scientific journals, I think. So the name of that company it's called Pergamon Press, which in Revelations 2 they talk about Pergamon or Pergamum. It's spelled you can spell it either way. It's called the altar of Pergamon is where human sacrifices took place, but Pergamon, like like the city is like Satan's throne.
Okay.
And something like that. You can look up in Revelations chapter 2. It's in there. They talk about like the church in Pergamon, like the city where Satan resides, stuff like that.
Jeez.
So that's crazy. He's named after this, but it gets weirder than that. So I think it was maybe early 2000s, late 90s. His company, named after like Satan's throne, stuff like that, buys out McGraw-Hill, which is in public school. Virtually all of our history, science, math textbooks, McGraw-Hill.
Yeah.
Even now, I do stuff on McGraw-Hill for like accounting and like math and stuff.
Huh.
And that's who owns that. If you wanted to know, and you want to talk about, like God getting taken out of the schools and devil replacing it. Literally, like
there you
company
go.
Named after Satan owns all the textbooks that our kids are reading in schools. And it's connected to Epstein. It's just like a big round like.
Yeah, it's kind of connected there.
Yeah. And speaking of suspicious suicides, Ghislaine Maxwell's father apparently committed suicide. He jumped off his boat in like the Mediterranean or something and like drowned himself.
I did hear that, yeah.
Yeah. Like, ex-Mossad agent, like satanic guy, like bad actor, putting money into education. He just kills himself for some reason, huh? Yeah, so there's definitely something going on bigger there. There's just so many different coincidences that lines up. But I'll get back to the Sound of Freedom pushback. The big thing is like media outlets. We talked about how biased they are and like how they're all owned by like these bad actor like corporations and stuff that clearly have an agenda.
Yeah, an agenda. There you go.
And so popular media, they're so basically the way it started, they finished the film in 2018. It took them 5 years to get it out because originally Fox had they were doing it through Fox.
Yep.
But then Disney bought part of Fox, the part that they were responsible for, and they shelve it indefinitely.
They put it on a shelf.
Yeah. They're like, all right, we're not gonna send it out.
Why?
Yeah.
You listeners. You go watch the movie and you tell me why would you not want this movie released? True story, kind of crime related, super popular themes. Why would Disney not want this movie out? Not to mention they're making cartoons and all kinds of stuff with weird sex stuff in it for kids. Just put that aside. Connect the dots later, I guess. Go ahead.
Yeah. Even Disney itself, you go look back to the roots of that, the kind of person Walt Disney was, things of that nature. They have their roots, I think, connected to part of the Nazi Party, stuff like that. Like,
oh my
just
goodness,
bad stuff. It's not as happy and everything that you might think it is, and that's kind of like a common theme with a lot of the stuff we're talking about. If you trace it back to where it really comes from, it's not coming from anything good. Like the sources of all this kind of stuff, it makes sense when you look at it that way through that lens. And they'll try to hide that from you. You just gotta do your own research on that kind of stuff, and it'll really open your eyes to like what's really going on. And life starts to become kind of simple when you look at it through that way, because everything starts making sense.
Makes more
and fall into
sense.
place. Yeah. So, anyways, they shelve it. They get through a bunch of legal battles and everything. Eventually, they release it, and the first thing that happens, all like the film critics and reviews, big news media outlets. It's a far right QAnon conspiracy, like bad film. If you're
here's the quote right here. Rolling Stone and The Guardian magazine. Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms. The QAnon-tinged thriller about child trafficking is designed to appeal to the conscience of a conspiracy-addled boomer. Watch the movie. Tell me if you think that's true. And tell me if you think Rolling Stone and The Guardian should never get another dime of your money. I've never read those magazines anyway, but unbelievable. Tell me if you agree with them. Tell me if you think Tim Ballard's mostly true story. He's done interviews and said this is what they embellished in the movie. The part about killing the guy to get out of the jungle, that was embellished. But tell me how you think this stuff isn't happening. Tell me how you think child sex trafficking it's just we have brain worms if we believe this is going on. And look up what the word brain worms means so you understand that they're taking a shot at mostly conservative people. Christian conservatives. So
yeah, and they did embellish some stuff, but like if you look at any movie ever that's been modeled after a true story or a book, you got to make it, you got to add some parts to make it a little bit more interesting because otherwise then it's just a documentary and then or like a biography, and it's just not the same,
right?
But like right away coming out and they're just straight bashing it. I mean, this is a movie about spreading awareness of like the international like sex trafficking of like little kids that's happening like around the world, close to home, everywhere. And like how is this something that becomes politicized? It's how is this right wing and stuff? If this is far right QAnon, then I'm the most far right, anarchist, whatever. Like and that kind of tells you like everything you need to know about like the media and the left. Like if this is what they oppose, like what are they standing for?
Yeah.
That's
this
is
not
look.
A political issue. Why did you make it? You take that. Yeah, I said that right away. I was talking to Ryan Peterson. He was going to be the first guest. I thought he was going to pick this topic, and he wasn't aware of the movie or anything. And I was like, well, let me just read you what some of these magazines said about it. And as soon as I said right wing something, he got real worked up about like don't make it political and different things because both sides. And I was like, dude, this isn't a political movie. Watch the movie. Tell me what you think. It's on Amazon right now. Why would these people start calling this stuff right wing? This has nothing to do with politics, party, anything. This is about child sex trafficking. That's it. Why would somebody say it's about politics? I don't know why they said it. Maybe we need to ask them. What's their agenda? I don't know. It's a great movie. What was it, $15 million to make? It made that back opening day. Had nobody got behind it whatsoever. No. It kept staying in theaters weekend after weekend after weekend. Beat Indiana Jones, beat all the big ones. And you had celebrities and athletes started saying, hey, go see this, go see this, go see. This movie should have blown up. Instead, it was a slow, steady thing. So it was people like you and me that went and saw it. It's telling everybody, hey, churches saying, hey, go see this. It was a slow, steady stream. Ended up making a good amount of money. And it kind of makes me sick when there was that much pushback. Did you see the stuff? There were videos going around. I didn't believe just hearing about them, but then I saw the videos that people were saying that people would order their tickets online and they'd get emails saying, something's wrong. We're going to refund your money. Don't come. Well, and then sometimes young kids, they didn't have anything else to do. So they'd go and it was still playing. And it's like, why would you theaters not want people to come see this? Other times they were told their AC wasn't working or technical difficulty. And sometimes they're filming right from in the theater. And the guy comes out and says, yeah, we're having technical difficulty. We can't play it. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. What is up with this stuff? I don't know. Watch the movie, guys. It's a great movie. It brings awareness to a huge issue. Why was there no support for it? Why did Disney shelve it? Sylvester Stallone does nothing different. In all of his Expendables movies, I went to the theater to see all three. Every one of them, he puts some issue at the center of it. The first one was the Somali pirates. Remember how they kept taking ships over and stuff? That was the opening scene. He always wanted to, with his second to last Rambo movie, it was about the genocide going on in one of those Asian countries. I can't remember which one it was, darn it. But he always put some sort of cultural issue or genocide or something at the center of his movie to bring attention to it. And those movies make just tens of millions, hundreds of millions. But The Sound of Freedom, got no support whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So I'm really shocked to see Amazon having it on Prime right now, because I had people text me and say, hey, that movie you told me about is on Amazon right now. And I was like, well, they had their shot right away in the beginning to do a wide release. Yep. Instead, it was a limited theater release. And it makes me sick, because you're like, what is up? Why would you not want to push this movie to the top of the box office? And it was at the top, and it beat out Indiana Jones, which took like $250 million to make. So just watch the movie, people. Tell me what's so wrong about this movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah. When they initially got shelved by Disney, they did reach out to, I believe it was like Amazon, maybe Netflix or something like that.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, wow. I mean, just strictly financially, they missed out big time. But like, what is that? Again, like, if you look at not like what I say, but what I do. I mean, you look at the actions of some of these companies and like the media outlets and stuff. Like, it tells you everything you need to know about them.
Yeah.
Like,
it does.
Yeah.
It does. Really. Yeah. Netflix has put some stuff out in the past that I can't believe there's people in a room somewhere that see some of this content and they say, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
What was that one with the
Cuties?
girls? Cuties.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazon right now, I just read an article and watched a trailer of a cartoon. They say it's for mature audiences only, but it's just like South Park. Kids are going to watch it, called Has Been Hotel. Watch the trailer for that. Glorifying Satan, putting Satan as the good guy, making the angels the bad guy. Absolutely despicable stuff. I hate Amazon. Yeah. I hate it. I stopped supporting them a long time ago. I absolutely try not to spend $1 with them if at all possible. I will pay more and buy my stuff elsewhere. I don't give a crap if it comes from somewhere else. Amazon is just terrible. And I know there's independent sellers on Amazon, so that helps justify it, I guess. But come on, people, look at some of these motives. Terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, and you look at the Cuties and stuff, like things that Netflix put out, but if you look at like the Rolling Stone, like they did a article on Cuties too. Completely different response, whatever, it's like empowering or whatever dumb stuff they say about that, like super in support of this, and they're like sexualizing these little girls and stuff, and like it's just terrible. Like seriously, like how can you even, like, I don't know, there's just no morals.
That's what I say. How could there be adults in a room somewhere who watched Cuties and say, yeah, this is good stuff for us to put out. This is good. Some people say, yes, let's do this. It's insane.
Yeah, and when I was talking about like how like our morals are under attack today, like this would never fly like 60 years ago, anything like that. Like so much stuff flies today now that never did. It's just insane to see how, like, as a society, like, we've regressed on, like, our stances. And like at first, like, starting with the gay thing, like first everyone's against it, and then it's like, okay, like, maybe they should have the right to get married and stuff like that, and then it becomes now it's transgenderism tagged into that, and okay, well, it's just people that want to dress different. Okay, now they actually believe that it's a slippery slope, and now they're in our schools telling kids that they need to mutilate their bodies and put them on these terrible hormone like things that, or they'll
never be happy if they don't do it.
Yeah,
but you never tell about the people who go through that stuff and then regret it. You know what I mean? And can try and protect these kids from doing that. I know. Tell both sides. Tell both sides. It's terrible.
Yeah. And to bring it full circle back to like the pedophilia and stuff, now there's people advocating for rights of, they call them MAP, like minor attracted persons. It's a sexuality. It's like a sexual orientation. Like, you're a pedophile and a criminal, and you should be dealt with accordingly.
You're getting right to the point. I've told this to my kids 100 times. This is going to be kind of the focus of my next solo episode, or it'll be the previous episode to this. If our morality doesn't come from God or the Word of God, where does it come from, and then where does it end? If that moral code that the Bible says is written on our hearts, we all know right from wrong. And we all have a desire towards sin. We do. You be honest with yourself. We all do. If we're not going to get our sense of right and wrong from the code that God has put inside of us, then it's Pandora's box. It's a never-ending road. We can never tell somebody something is wrong. And that is the road that we're headed. So people, whether you're a Christian, a believer, or not, you know you have a sense of right and wrong. We all do. You have to ask yourself, how did that get there? Is it just society standards? Because the standards are changing. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get in line with that, there's going to be a price to pay. Well, guess what? I'm willing to pay that price. I'm standing with the Lord, with his values, with his standards, if it costs me everything. And I know the disciples said that too, and they had their moment, they scattered, but they endured to the end. They all finished well. So that's the price to pay. And if standing for those kinds of values and morals, like we're talking about, if that means we never win another election, I'm fine with that. I would much rather stand with God than get my favorite guy in the White House or in the Senate or whatever. I'm standing with God because that's who I'm answering to in the end. I won't change my position on abortion. I'm going to value life always until the end. Yep. That's it. If I lose an election because of that, Trump says that's a terrible idea. The heartbeat bill is a terrible idea. We got to find some medium ground. I get where he's coming from, but that's a political answer. I'm standing for unborn life. I've read about too many cases where, a woman was raped, she chose life, the kid grows up, and he's glad he's alive, or she's glad she's alive. Yep. Terrible situations. The kid's got a defect or trisomy 18. You carry the baby to term. You deliver it early. You don't abort it. There are other options. So, it's our morals. Where do they come from, guys? Whether you're a believer or not, they got to come from somewhere. So they're either ever-changing or there's a set standard, a set code, and it's in the Word of God. You open that book up, and you'll find them. So
God is definitely the source of all, morality and, good things like that. Without him, what are you left with?
That's right. Whatever we want. Whatever we want, man, and that's good to people. That sounds good to a lot of people, but that doesn't make it right.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the most, destructive and, cruel, societies of all time, you think, Hitler's Germany, Mao Zedong's, China, and, Stalin's, Russia, putting people in, death camps and stuff like this. What do all those guys have in common? Atheism.
Anti-God. Atheism. Yeah.
These super atheists, because, without that, then you just don't value human life or anything like that. You have no, moral compass to guide you, and then that's what you get. I mean, some of the worst, dark periods in history, worst places, to be at during that. It's why? Because there's no God.
Yeah. It's atheist, humanist, a lot of that stuff. We read Dunphy's word. He said it. Christianity is the rotting corpse, and it needs to be done away with in the public school. We need to educate, indoctrinate a whole new generation, and they successfully, done that. Distanced people from our Creator. So, you got anything else to add, man, or are we going to wrap it up?
I think it's a good place to leave it off.
You did good. You really came in guns loaded, guys. That is, how old are you?
20.
20-year-old kid. Came in ready to go to talk about some deep topics, man. It is 11:45 on a Friday night. Caden's not out drinking and driving and partying. He's sitting down here talking about critical cultural issues that he's passionate about. So, dude, I got to just say thanks for coming on. You did great. You really represented young people well today. You're not perfect. I know you slip up. I know, your mom's told me back in the day about reading your phone and some stuff. You're not a perfect kid, but that just goes to show, the Bible is just that much more true. We're all a little messed up. We have sin. It's something we gotta work on. But you really represented young people well today, man. I'm proud of you. I'm glad I know you. And we are trying to reach multiple demographics with the podcast this year, and we hope to have more young people like you, even younger, come on and share. Like one of our recent giveaway winners, Wapsie Valley Jr., Dallas Tissue, who wins this chosen mug and chosen calendar and says, man, I want to come on the podcast. I don't want to just win stuff. I want to come on. And I was like, well, just listen to this next episode. I got a young guy coming on. Then you can tell me. But we're also going to focus on females as well. We already have one special female guest lined up, but that's going to be a big reveal because she's kind of a big deal. She's like a Northeast Iowa celebrity. She's really big. Maybe you guys in the audience should give me your guesses and see if anyone can guess who the first female guest is going to be. See if you can guess it correctly. I'll be meeting with her in the coming weeks to do a pre-meeting. She's that dang busy that I got to go to her job and do a pre-meeting. This kind of makes me feel like a big deal, but So yeah, let's do that. Why don't you send me your guesses? Who's this big first female guest to whatisuppodcast@gmail.com, or you can message us on our Facebook page or our Instagram. And while you're contemplating just who that could be, let me ask you one more serious question, especially after all this discussion we had here today. Have you looked around in the last few years and noticed something going on that wasn't right? Or maybe you just thought was flat out crazy? Did you think to yourself, what is up with that? I know I have. I know Kaden has. It's one of the main reasons I started this podcast, to get people to take notice of things and ask, why are these things happening? Where? And then maybe, point them to get some truth somewhere. One thing that really had me confused, and it wasn't that recently, it's been years now, the TV network, ABC, canceled their number one sitcom, Last Man Standing. Why would a television network do that? Isn't the goal to have a number one hit show? Well, apparently they didn't like the jokes or the agenda or the comedy. I don't know. So it went off the air for a little while, and then it got picked up by Fox, and it came back funnier than ever. Or how about more recently? This one really upset me. The mayor of Boston threw a holiday party for city council members. And you guys know I am a Christmas guy through and through. But this one was only for people of color. Are we trying to segregate ourselves again? I read about colleges now having separate graduation ceremonies. One for people of color, one for the white kids. What is up with that? Are we going backwards? I've always said we need to go backwards to go forwards. That's not what I meant. I meant go back to a simpler time. More meals around the table, more things that I should be doing in my own home. Not go back to segregation. We're doing the exact opposite of what we should be doing. Where I come from and where I get my guidance on life, the Bible, you go back far enough in that thing, we're all one race. So why are we separating things again? Just treat people the way you want to be treated. Do you really think some clever elementary teacher came up with that saying when you were a kid and hung it up in their classroom? Nope. She got it from the Bible, Luke 6:31. And you might be surprised that most of our best stuff that we see or read or hear today, that comes from the Word of God. Some of your best movie ideas, they're stolen right from the Bible. Some of your best sayings, some of your most wise sayings, that comes from the Bible. So if you're searching for answers or guidance or direction, maybe some purpose or peace in your life, I want you to look up. Look to God. Look in His Word, and He will show you what is up. I'll even help you get started. The most important question we all have to answer is, who is Jesus, and what's my relationship with Him? Start there, and I promise you, you're already on the right path. It's really quite simple. Like I said, Romans 3:23, we're all sinful. We all need a Savior. Okay? That sin promises us death, separation from God forever. But God offers us a gift, and that gift's eternal life through Christ Jesus our Lord. That's Romans 6:23. Jesus said we must be born again, so it doesn't matter what you've done or what you're doing or what's in your past. You can be forgiven. You can be set on the right path. And it's nothing you can actually do or earn. You don't deserve it. Ephesians 2:8-10 tells us it is a gift from God that no one can boast. It's not of works. If you could do something to earn it, why did Jesus come? And it's only through Jesus that you can get this gift, this forgiveness of sin. Okay? John 14:6, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. That's what the Bible says. Jesus is the way, the only way. There's no other way. If you need more help or you want to know more, you can join me and Kaden any Sunday at FBC in Dunkerton. Yes, he still goes to church even though he's a college student. That's a good thing. Or if you're not in the area, just check out the live stream on our Facebook page. Check out Pastor Micah online. You can leave a comment in the comment section wherever you're listening, or you can email me at whatisuppodcast@gmail.com, and I'll personally share the gospel with you so you can know for sure that God is real, that He loves you, and wants a relationship with you. If you haven't figured it out by now, there's absolutely nothing on this earth that we should put our hope in. There's no person, no athlete, no celebrity, no preacher, no politician, no philosophy or ideology. We got to look up. We got to look to God and the truth that's in His Word. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to share it wherever you listen. Tell your friends. Check out our Facebook and our Instagram for more information, for videos, and giveaways that we might have coming up. Send me your comments in an email. I'd love to share them on a future episode. If I could get enough people to email me, I would share them as its own show. Okay? Be sure to answer the Q&A and the poll question that I've put in the episode description. Have some fun with that. Tell your friends about the best new podcast on the market. Post it to your social media, and you may just win a prize. If I happen to notice you do that, I may just send you something or give you a shout out. Let's grow this audience this year and see what God does with it. Lord willing, I'll see you on the next one.